everybody. Well, it's just me right now. I've been traveling all day, and just got a chance to watch GH, and just wanted to, I like actually like I saw clips earlier, but to actually sit with it, and so wanted to just like a brief yap, um, because I don't know what our recording looks like this weekend because Tanya and I are going to that event. Um, so we'll see. But did want to yap a little bit about today, really. Um, so today we have the Portia Trina interaction. Let's see. What do I think? Well, let me start positive. I think that they played really well together. I think that like mother daughter having drama is actually the cornerstone of soap story, and so it makes sense to me after everything that's gone down between Trina and Portia that there would be some sort of drama. The other part of me, like as a Portia fan, as all of that, I kind of get frustrated when every time Portia's on screen now, she has to like apologize and make amends. There's not another character who has to behave in that way all the time. And so it kind of is frustrating to me that she always has to make amends. But let's get into it. So Portia shows up to Trina's house. Trina has an attitude about seeing her. And I'm not necessarily too mad about that. I think the thing that frustrates me about what Trina's mad about is that it centers Curtis. And we've talked a lot about this on Sunday Shift every week that they have centered Black Hospital around Curtis. And so centering Black Hospital around Curtis means that everybody has to be like trying to make sure that he is doing right, that everything's okay for Curtis. So you have this conversation between Portia and Trina, and I personally would have loved if Trina would have never gotten over like the Taggart thing. So wow, we have our first Taggart mention, but she calls him Taggart and Curtis dad. And I always say this about like just the way Black people interact, that does not feel true to form. The way Trina spoke to Portia does not feel true to like Black families. I don't know about y'all. I got a Black mama. I ain't calling her a liar right now in my big age. Right now, I would not call my mama a liar. So there's something to me that I think that could have been more culturally sensitive about that. It's not that I don't want Trina to express herself. I think if Trina's expression for me personally would have been, um, if Trina's expression to me personally would have been like, you lied to me. You took away this opportunity for me to know Curtis. And it looks to me like you're about to do this again with my sibling. And that's tough for me to take. I think that that would have been a good base for their conversation. That actually, as much as I tried to get over it, I kind of never got over you lying to me about this because that's actually what we had Curtis saying to her. Where like this happened on our wedding day. I should have never married you. And so we have this conversation with Portia, and the way she's coming in and is like, well, here's what's wrong, and this is Curtis and Jordan. Like, that's not what I wanted to hear from Portia. I wanted Portia to be able to say, listen, adults, grown-ups, marriages is really complicated. And the complication the relationship between me and your dad got really complicated. But the long and short of it is we should have never got married. That the original lie that I told, the kind of original sin of this story was lying about your paternity, and that was a basis and foundation that me and your father could never get over. We kind of don't need to hear the rest of it. But because they do so much to center Curtis, we end up having this like, well, you lied to dad and you cheated on him and you weren't gonna tell him. And well, what do you mean? Portia or Jordan and dad were friends. Yeah, and it was inappropriate. But we don't get that. We don't get that part of it. So I wish that their mother daughter conversation, their mother daughter chat would have been really about what transpired between them as mother and daughter and not really so much about like the supposed cheating, because y'all know how I feel about that. That I feel like it was over by the time that Portia decided to sleep with Isaiah, and that Curtis has been emotionally cheating on Portia for a long time. So anyway, that's kind of how I feel mostly about the conversation, mostly about the scene. I thought that, like I said, the way that Trina was coming at her really made me feel like, oh, black people not writing this, because I just cannot imagine coming at my mom in that way. And I wish that it would have been like Trina saying, you raised me to be respectful, but I kind of don't have anything respectful to say to you right now. And that's why I've been avoiding you, because I didn't want to blow up on you. And then the blow up would have made more sense. Like, well, look, I told you. But just like the outright disrespect, that's like actually not how a 22-year-old black girl talks to her mama. I don't care what nobody say. Um, so that's where I was with that. We do have the storm coming up. We have Joss at Windermere. Um, and oh yeah, I see somebody else. Yeah, somebody else. Right, right. Trina was being disrespectful, and let's rewind for a second, because I want to be really clear that I don't want Trina to be perfect, and I actually like that Portia said she didn't want her to be perfect. Like, in order to be the heroine of a soap, it's okay for people to dislike you one day and then like you the next day. And I think as fans, sometimes we get really wrapped up in, oh, well, this person doesn't like this person today. They're not being written correctly. That's not true. Like, sometimes you do really mess up things and the audience turns against you, and then you have the audience come back, and that's okay too. I don't think that the writers thought that Trina was being written poorly today. I think the writers know how people feel about Portia. They have set up the way they felt about Portia, and they let Trina essentially go off on her. So to me, I don't think this was in the writers' minds poor writing for Trina. I think in the writers' minds this was a really good writing for Trina, and I think people who really don't like Portia thought that too. So I think that it was okay to be mad at Portia. I don't think it was okay to be disrespectful to Portia, and there not be an acknowledgement, because there needed to be a moment for Trina, or and while she was going off, for Portia to be like, okay, listen, I hear you. I know you're mad. I'm not about to be your punching bag. I'm your mom. But there's always this like hat in hand, will you please love me? Will you please not be mad at me situation that's always happening with them. And I'm not particularly a fan of that. Um, so yeah, that's what I got from that. Going into Windermere, which was a big deal. I people think that this is like a small thing sometimes when we talk about architecture, we talk about whatever. I think that is not a small deal. I actually think it's a really big deal that what they did to Windermere. Something I thought was small that people were doing too much on, people was putting like a 20 on a 10, was when Drew and you remember when Drew and Carly were together and they went to Florida, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's not what the Florida beaches look like. Okay, friends. A lot of people don't live on the beach. A lot of people don't know the Florida beach, what the Florida beach looks like. So I'm not really here for that being like such a talking point. Windermere is an iconic location that we have known for decades. And so I think that changing that really changes the show. And to me, I know somebody got mad, but I'm gonna continue to be me. I'm gonna continue to like criticize when I think criticism is necessary. To me, it feels like that they just didn't care. And I say that because when I criticize the most, I'm really thinking about, I don't like to be disrespected. I don't like us as audience members to be disrespected. And sometimes I think they're like, oh, y'all watch soaps, y'all take anything, here, damn. Like, that's like kind of the vibe that I get. And with like some of the things that they do. And I don't like that. And so when you have Trina call Taggart Taggart and not Dad, even though she's known him. Like you don't try to have any cultural competency in your writing. That's a problem. When you change the setting of a very historic landmark, for what reason? Like where that looks flat. Where are the catacombs? Where's the pyramid? These are like actually like real things that we have cared about over time on the show that like just didn't show up. So I do think that that's a problem. Um, and I will say that I have been probably one of the toughest critics of Jocelyn and the Spy Story. I actually like this week. I like her disobeying Brendan's orders. I like her doing her thing. I like her with her little Kim Possible stuff. Um, I don't like Joss as a spy long term. I don't mind her as like doing something short term, finding something out and then stepping back. Um, yeah, that's where I am with that. I, you know, whatever. I'm not mad about it. I think it finally means that we're going somewhere. I did see the Brennan actor online, the actor who plays Brennan, and then I saw it also get picked up by like Soap Opera Digest and all that. Um, I hold on, I see. Sorry, they haven't written for Trina since Spencer left. Trina got so popular and was outshining Joss, so they had to dumb her down. Um, I mean, it's possible. I can't say no. Um, I cannot give them. Uh, I cannot give them cover. That is possible. I also think that Trina was supposed to be with Geo, and the stuff that we saw with like his father or like him finding out who his parents were and all of that. I think that was supposed to spit around into a story for Trina as well. And people didn't like Trina and Geo, so they pivoted. I think that they don't know what to do with people who are in Trina's like shoes, in the lane of what kind of character that is. It's the same kind of thing that we have with Elizabeth, where if you're trying to write people perfect because I think they're worried about her fan base getting mad, um, and then it ends up sidelining them in a way. I also think, and I said this before, I think that the Kai character, when you're a character like Trina who's been around, who's been beloved, who's in a popular pairing, you should be able to bring on other characters. Like other characters should kind of come on based on you. Like that is not necessarily sidelining. That's not necessarily something that we don't see. Like like characters who are connected like Trina introduce new characters all the time. And so that was what she was supposed to have been doing with Kai, and they ended up writing Kai a bad story. Kai has a very similar story to Dex. The problem is Dex was attached to Sunny, who was always on screen, who you could build with, all of that. Whereas to Kai is connected and was connected to Drew, who everybody hated. So I say all that to say I don't want to give the writers cap and cover. They could be doing whatever they do, but I also think it's a little bit more complicated than in want her to outshine Joss. Um, and I think, yeah, I think I think that's the case. I see you say Kai is not for Trina. Um, I don't. I think they did a really bad job of writing Kai. I mean, here you got this like supposed. First of all, we haven't heard him talk about football since he got on, but they brought him on as a football player. We don't even care about football in Port Charles. Port Charles is a baseball city. Like we see them play baseball with the businesses. We hear them talking about the Yankees. Like this is a baseball town. So they brought him on for football. That was made up. Had him get injured. Nobody, like, we didn't care. And then didn't connect that to like a family story. He didn't even get something like, oh, I was playing football because he didn't give me no like blindside type story or some my family wasn't really doing well, but me making it was supposed to be what got us out the hood or whatever it is. Like they didn't do any of that. It just fell flat. And I think that that is the problem. I don't have a problem with their chemistry. I don't think they have bad chemistry. Um, I think they have a bad story. Um, and I also think I'm really careful about the way I talk about Trina. Not that I think that anybody who's important listens to us at all, but I am careful about the way I talk about Trina because I know how easy it is to use any excuse to sideline or get rid of Black characters and not think about them again. TJ was the person who brought on the Ashfords, and we ain't seen TJ. TJ didn't even get so much as a goodbye. He just kind of ain't on screen. Um, I'm conscious of what that means for a character like Joss, because people have only liked her as a whole when she is connected to Spencer. Now, I think that that comes with storyline. I think that that's a lot of different reasons, but people who just look at the surface level and don't look at everything, don't look at the whole picture, will see how many love interests have they like given Trina that people have said have fallen flat. Now, I don't think that's Trina's fault. I think it's the fault of the writers. I think it's the fault of not giving story. Like I said, it's the same thing they did to Dex. But they don't even connect Trina's past to what her present is. So we had Trina lose. She was with Rory. People hated Rory. And they like never gave that love triangle a chance. That was really bad on the writers. Like, I think that we all knew it was always going to be Sprina. I remember Tabiana when she first came on to GH, she came into Spaces and she was like, "Oh yeah, I love this. I love a love triangle," and I think of it kind of like I'm Bella and they're Jacob and Edward. And so if you think about Twilight, if you sorry if you're not a Twilight watcher but or reader, but Twilight, like, it was always going to be Edward. But Jacob still had a good story, a compelling story, one that was enough to make people root for him. And we didn't get that. So there was that coupling, that pairing. It fell flat. Then, okay, we had Spencer. That was a big deal. Everybody liked it. Then we have her breaking up like then they bring on Geo, who is, I mean, I know people were like, he's not for her. He was clearly for her. I don't know if y'all remember, even Nicolas Chavez like commented on his like that actor's like Instagram, like, take care of her, like everything was pointing to Geo being for her, and the fan base didn't like him. And I think they were like really interested in Geo. They seemed to really like that character, so they didn't want to put him in a pairing that was like ill-gotten, that people already didn't like him. So they ended up pushing pause on that, gave it to Emma, and then that's when we got Kai, because I think they thought, oh, maybe like there'd be like this kind of black love couple, but they didn't do the work to make Kai viable. So I think that I am conscious that Trina has been the part of what three, two and a half pairings, three pairings or whatever that like people didn't like. And if we are not careful about the way we talk about it, because people don't listen to nuance, people don't listen to here's the reasons, but if we're not careful, then it will fall back on her. So that's what I'll say. They need to let a new guy actually be a character on the show for a minute before putting him with Trina. Oh, Spencer was his own character outside of Trina, and then finally put them together. And see, here's the thing, and I think I said this before in a Yap session. Trina is the character who is central to so many things, and her presence is what like makes other characters viable. So think about like an Ava Jerome, for example. Like, yes, that relationship was important for Trina, but that relationship is actually very important for Ava. It humanizes Ava, it grounds Ava. Even when Ava's on the most amount of BS, she has things with Trina, and that's been consistent throughout. And the Trina Ava relationship kind of never really made sense, because imagine I'm your bestie and I tell you that she like had something to do with killing my brother. and you start kicking it with her. Like that never kind of made sense, but we allowed it because it was good. In the same way, I don't like Nina, but I like the Ava Nina friendship. Never made sense. Never should have happened, considering everything that happened between them. But it did because it's good chemistry, and we let it rock. Um, so I said it to say Spencer came on beloved character before because I loved Spencer. Like um Nicholas Bechtel, that was my baby. Like I was like, yes, this is like my child, my fave, rambunctious. I love me a rambunctious little kid. So he came back and it was clearly for Trina because the character they brought him back at or back as could have never been for anybody else. um that the character they brought Spencer back as could have like he could have never been for like a Jocelyn because nobody wants to see heiress Jocelyn with like billionaire boy, right? So I think I, I said it to say really just to uplift and give Trina her tens that Spencer as a character only worked because he had the grounding of Trina. So I don't mind them bringing on a character and instantly kind of connecting them to Trina, but they also have to give them both their own stories, and they have not done that. Um, and I think that was important for Trina because it was like post Spencer, post like this big love story they had for her. They should have given her like another story that Kai stepped into, as opposed as opposed to giving Kai a story that Trina supported because the story didn't even endear us to him anyway. So that's what I think about that. I saw somebody say, I want to go back. Somebody asked about Big C, director Cullum out at Windermere and Jocelyn. That he was creepy. And Jocelyn, I think, is really showing why she should have listened to Brennan. I'm interested to see if like she connects with Anna. I'm interested to see what happens next with her. But he was creepy, and I wonder if he's figured her out. Um, Supposedly Brennan didn't like say anything about her, but who actually knows if that's true? So this is what I was saying about the actor who plays Brennan. So he was kind of on Twitter and he was like, in response to, overhearing Jocelyn overhearing that he like didn't care about Carly or he was using Carly. For me, that scene was obvious that he was like, putting attention off of Carly in the same way he put attention off of Jocelyn. But they have changed this story around because they now want Brennan to be a viable character outside of like or with Carly or outside of Carly, whatever it is. So it's tough. I understand what he was saying because obviously we know how social media goes, and so people were like purposefully being obtuse. But then there's also this thing that like you can't keep changing stories in the middle and get frustrated when the audience doesn't understand the change. Brendan came on. We kind of didn't know. It was like the Pikeman thing. He was a good guy. He was a bad guy. He was Australian. Now he's not. There was all of this kind of moving around with him, and so now we're in this situation where they're telling us that he kept Jocelyn off the radar. Well, why? Why did you recruit her if you kept her off the radar? And y'all didn't even get nothing from Dalton's office, so you know what I mean? Like, so there's like, it's clearly some rewrites that are happening up in here. And so I can't blame fans who don't understand it. Um, but I know the guy who plays Cullum or Big C was on Steve and Bradford's podcast. I haven't watched it. I am gonna watch it, but I haven't watched it, so I don't know what he said. Um, but I'm also, if I'm being honest with y'all, not I'm not sold on the WSB. The WSB is just not my thing. I like Anna. I think I probably would like Joss the spy better if Anna was her mentor. I also think it would have liked if Brennan would have recruited both Joss and Emma. And and I've said this many times, I think that if Dex would have been the person afterwards, like, so if she goes to this training and all this, and then when Vaughn showed up, that was actually Dex. That would have been cool. Oh yeah, Pascal knows about Joss, so Sidwell and Callum should know as well. Yeah, and so I think that they're saying that like, oh, we're gonna keep her. Hi, Tara. Um, I think they were saying that they were going to keep her out of Pascal's sight, but Tara actually, speaking of Tara, did like this really great thread on Twitter about like the confusion, like that. It's tough to see people frustrated or like the actors frustrated about the story when, babes, the story keeps changing. So like we in here just like finding very basic things. If Pascal knows, how do other people not know? The woman who's the traitor, did she die? Y'all have to remember. But the woman who was the traitor knew about Jocelyn. You got what's his name, Vaughn, knowing about Jocelyn. So it doesn't make sense that now all of a sudden Brennan kept her low key. Okay. This is like obviously an attempt, and I don't mind it. Obviously, like we do this all the time, but I mind it when it happens all the time because of laziness. So this is obviously an attempt to like make Brennan not a bad guy and maybe even try to salvage the relationship with Carly. Y'all should have thought about that when y'all had him doing this. And there's also, don't try to tell me there were breadcrumbs when you change some stuff in the middle of it. How would I know this? How would I follow these breadcrumbs if y'all just figured it out? If this is a story that you just started telling. So that I think is like the frustrating part with that WSB story. Let's see if y'all said anything else before I go to bed. I'm on the East Coast now, y'all. I'm already tired. It's cold. That time difference is kicking my butt. So just trying to see if y'all said anything else. Want to also go on record. I don't know what's happening between Charlotte and Danny. The show needs to stop it. I don't know how we can stop it. They are cousins. Just because you don't talk about them being cousins and family does not mean that that's not true. They're both Cassadine. Just because you don't talk about Sam's Cassadine side does not mean it doesn't exist. Um, I'm not interested in seeing them together. It was already slightly weird when they were doing Charlotte and Jake, but I was like, let it go. Um, this, no, thank you. Um, Stop it, pull it back, don't do it. No, don't like it. Um, Yeah, I see somebody in the chat saying we had a Taggart mention. We did have a Taggart mention. I could not believe she called him Taggart and not Dad, and was like, "Well, you did this with Taggart, your dad, the man who raised you." Because Trina also talks to Portia as if she was like a motherless child or a fatherless child, like as if she didn't have a man there who like loved her, protected her, supported her, and she missed out on having a father when that's not the case. So I'm not saying that she doesn't have a right to be frustrated or angry with Portia, but I am saying that like the measure of anger is wild. Like this, you kept this amazing man, Curtis, out of my life. Like, okay, okay. This again is what happens when you center Curtis and you don't let these two women, this mother and daughter, actually hash things out between them. Oh, Nathan, I've been thinking how he was a cop. Yeah. I don't know if I think Nathan took the pictures of Laura and Sunny. I think that felt drone strike-ish, or not strike, ooh, drone-ish. Curtis was, yeah, but that felt drone-ish. But I, I do think something's going on with Nathan. I do think that it's not, I mean, it's not what it seems. We have Anna gone. I think it means something that Anna was not going to give him back his job, but when she left, Dante did. I also think it means something that when um, Emma came to the station to see Mac, Mac wasn't there, so Nathan took over, and then Nathan like walks out, is doing all this. What does Nathan know? What is he seeing? I just feel like he's somehow wrapped up in there. I don't know what he's wrapped up in. I don't know if it actually is Nathan who's brain mind controlled. I don't know if it's, I do watch Days, so I don't know if it's something like with brain transfers or something, but I don't trust Nathan. And if you watch, y'all know Bradford who plays Spinelli, um, does like the whatever, like the spoilers and the previews. And so he's always like joking that Nathan is shady. Now I know he's doing that on a Spixie tip, but I also think that there's something to it. So I think something happened or something's wrong there. Sybil doesn't threaten Nathan like he does Britt. No, he doesn't. I think that's why I think Nathan's like working with them willingly in a way that Britt wasn't. I think, oh, Britt, I don't know what they're doing with that. I would like for them to figure it out. Her and Jason, it's like he's babysitting his child. I'm not here for it. Okay, so that was a 30-minute yap session. I always love getting on here with that with y'all. I am barely holding my head up because I had a delayed flight and I was exhausted. It's freezing. Um, Here we go. Every time they had Trina confront her mom, I'm reminded that Black people are not in the writer's room because this is not how daughters talk to their mamas outside of Lynn Whitfield and it's Perry film. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's clear. When I heard Trina call her mama a liar, I touched my cheek because I felt like, oh my god, is she about to get slapped? A liar? Listen, my mama is a Black woman from the country. You ain't never gonna call her a liar. Not ever. I know. I think I'm sure GH has Black writers. I don't know if a Black writer was the breakdown writer and wrote that dialogue. Is what I mean. All right, y'all. Well, Ty and I will update y'all a little bit more on like the Rory and Eden event. I am taking myself to bed. I'm exhausted. Um, we will talk with y'all soon. Bye.